Hi, my name is Sue Jeffers. Welcome to our continuing series of Meet the Candidates. Today we have a wonderful treat, a judicial candidate. I know, everybody says all the time, I don't know anything about the judges, I don't know anything about the judges. This is a wonderful opportunity to learn about the judges. Greg Wersal, welcome.
Nice to meet you, Sue.
Oh, so much fun. I'm looking forward to this. Let's start out with, why did you decide to run for judge?
Oh, Sue, our courts are out of control. They've been out of control for years, and the only way we're going to get control is to make elections work. And that's what I've been working at for 15 years. It's been a long, long struggle, but we're finally to the point where even the judges are afraid that somebody could win.
Okay. Who are you?
Well, I'm Greg Wersal. I'm an attorney. I've practiced law for 30 years. And in that, what you see is, like I said, judges who are out of control, judges who say they don't care what precedent is, they're just going to do what they want. What you will see at the upper levels, like at the Supreme Court level, are judges who just decide they're going to be policymakers. And if you're going to stop that, the way to do it, I think, is through free and open elections.
All right, so there are clear roles for what the judicial branch versus the executive branch is supposed to be doing. And you hear all the time that the judicial branch is out of control. You hear about activist judges.
Exactly.
But let's think back to our ballot. When we get our ballot, we flip it over. We know nothing about these judges.
Right.
And then we see on the back page it says incumbent.
Right. And let me just talk to you a little bit about the ballot. When you flip it over, most people have no idea who the candidates are or why they should vote for them. And what you need to understand, Sue, is that doesn't happen by accident. That's happening by design. And what's happened is the judges themselves got control of the election system. And they created a whole bunch of rules that made it virtually impossible for anybody to intelligently run for these positions. And I'll just give you an example of a couple of the rules. They had a rule that said judicial candidates could not state their views on legal issues.
What?
Yeah, you couldn't state your views on legal issues. What you were supposed to talk about, I have no idea. I mean, other than state your name and that you're married, perhaps, that you have children. I mean, this is ridiculous. I came to the attention of the courts because I started going to numerous political party gatherings, otherwise known as conventions, throughout 1996 and 1998, or excuse me, 97. And in January 1st of 98, the judges created a new rule that prohibited judicial candidates from attending and speaking at political conventions. And again, the only purpose of this was to try to shut down this election system, try to keep a lid on it, and they've been very successful at it. Now, what happened, though, is that after they did that, the Republican Party joined me in a lawsuit that went all the way up to the U.S. Supreme Court, and we won. And
this is a very interesting case. Tell people about this case.
well, it's called the Republican Party of Minnesota versus White. It took 8 years from beginning to end in litigation, but it has changed judicial elections throughout the United States. About 38 states elect their judges. And now, as a result of that case, judicial candidates can state their views on legal and political issues, can attend political party gatherings, can seek political party endorsements, can state their views on legal and political issues, and can personally solicit campaign funds. So we accomplished a lot there. Now, the Minnesota Supreme Court, not to be outdone, and still trying to keep a lid on everything, came right back within months and created a new rule. The new rule is judicial candidates can personally solicit campaign funds, but only if there are 20 or more people in the audience. And understand that the reason they did that is to try to put a cap again back on judicial elections, because they know, as well as every candidate that comes and talks to you, that the major way you raise funds is direct solicitation, by calling people on the phone, asking them if they'd give money to your campaign. And now I can't do that. I can't tell you how many events I've been at where there are 19 people or 16 people in the audience. I can't ask for money. But understand again, the judges who created these rules, they raise almost all of their money from large law firms in downtown Minneapolis and St. Paul. And they go into law firms where maybe there's 200, 300, 400 attorneys. They can get 50, 100 of them in a room, and then they get maybe $1,000 out of each of them. And pretty soon they've got all kinds of money.
Nice war chest.
A nice war chest. And then they have the other benefit that you mentioned earlier, which is that word incumbent on the ballot. And we're currently trying to challenge that in a case that's right now before the 8th Circuit Court of Appeals.
That incumbent behind a judge's name, that is, I'm an election judge, that is the only spot on the ballot where you see the word incumbent, and that's on the judicial races.
Yep, you're absolutely right, and it definitely creates a very unfair playing field in these elections. Historically, about 55 to 60% of the people simply vote for the incumbent because they have no other information, and about 40 to 45% are voting against the incumbent and for the challenger. What we're trying to tell people in this election cycle is, again, this isn't happening by accident that you don't have information. It's happening by design, and if we start kicking some of these judges out of office who are out of control, we'll get our election system back. Those judges will come back and they'll start talking to the voters, and that's what we need to have. We need to have accountability in this system.
We never, ever, ever give up our right to vote for judges. Ever, ever, ever. So I want to ask you about after the 2002 White case,
right.
And I think I have the year correct. Correct me if I'm wrong. Then we decided people could go out and be endorsed by a candidate if they wanted to. And in response, we got something called the Cui Commission.
Yeah.
Tell us about the Cui Commission.
Okay. So again, the judges are always trying to find a way to put a lid back on elections. One of the ways they're doing this is they have pursued an independent commission to make recommendations to the legislature, the upshot of which is they want to do away with judicial elections. They want to have all judges be appointed by the governor, and I can't tell you how insane an idea this is, because literally all the judges would at that point in time be unaccountable entirely. And that's what they're pushing. And I've been down to legislative session after legislative session arguing against it. We've had some success because so far we've kept it off the ballot, but they're coming back. And Al Cui is pushing this. The judges are pushing it. Helen Meyer, who I'm running against, one of the incumbents I'm running against, she supports this constitutional amendment. And again, it would take away everybody's right to vote.
So does our new Minnesota Supreme Court Justice, the chief. She was just sworn in last week. She stopped short of saying, I support taking away your right to vote on judicial elections. But boy, and we saw the Chief Justice Magnus support the same thing too. Yep. We have just got to stop this. We cannot give up our right to vote on judges.
Well, again, I think if we elect some people this cycle, it's going to put a big hole in that argument. I think it'll stop that. But until we can do that, they are going to push and they are going to push and they're going to try to take away everybody's right to vote for judges.
I call it a scam when I'm doing my radio show, but the fact that some of these judges step down and are appointed by the governor, I get that part, but isn't that pretty political?
Well, it's not only political, but it also shows you, I think, the hatred that judges have for elections. The fact that they will actually leave their positions before the end of their term simply for the only purpose of taking that election away from the people. Because if there's a vacancy, the governor appoints to fill the vacancy, and then there's no election.